Pop stardom promises fame and fortune. But what happens when the spotlight becomes a cage? Today's episode dives into Britney versus Spears, the explosive documentary that shines a spotlight on one of the most disturbing celebrity legal battles in modern history. Was the conservatorship ever really about concern for a troubled pop icon, or was it about power and control over a multi-million-dollar career? We'll unpack how Britney Spears went from teen phenomenon to a woman trapped under a 13-year conservatorship, the legal machinery that kept her voice muted, and the media ecosystem that profited while looking the other way. From leaked court documents to chilling audio recordings, this documentary forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about fame, autonomy, and who truly gets to decide how a person lives their life. This documentary asks one simple but powerful question. How did this happen to one of the most powerful women in the music industry? You're listening to Real Stories, Real Problems with Rachael and Roxanne.
Hi, Rachel. How are you today?
I'm good, Roxanne. How are you?
Oh, I felt so bad for Britney during this whole thing.
Me too.
I really did. I wanted to help her so much. I wanted to give her a big hug and all this. And it's just something that we see so many times with young people in show business.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I came into this with a lot of knowledge because I read her autobiography, The Woman in Me,
Okay.
that came out last year.
Okay.
And I got to hear this story because the documentary is told from like the third person we're watching her. I got to hear it from her perspective.
Right.
And so a lot of the things that the documentary was kind of like guessing at or feeling like it made sense if it was this way, like she wrote it all down and broke it all out just about how abusive her parents were.
Right.
And the decisions that they made that harmed her so badly. And it was just a nightmare. And even she pulled her punches in the book.
Right.
Because there were a number of places where she was like, and I was 13 and they sent me to dinner on my own in a fancy restaurant with this 40-year-old man.
Right.
And who's to say what was going to happen? And so clearly she's like, I have been sexually abused and sexually trafficked within this industry, and I cannot come out and say that because these are very powerful people.
Exactly.
But I need you to understand that this happened to me.
Right.
And so
awful.
Kind of knowing all of that going on in the back of my head while watching this, I felt so terrible for her all over again.
Yeah. Sure. Oh God. Yeah. And it's in some ways they're forced to grow up so quickly, but at the same time, they're constantly coddled and treated like they were a child, that when the age of majority does come, a lot of these kids don't understand what their rights are or even that they have rights.
Yeah. And it is surreal because there is so much money at stake with this whole thing. Her career, multi-millions of dollars. At this point, she probably has grossed $1 billion or more in ticket sales and merchandise and all the things.
Yeah.
So she was a machine. She was basically printing money, and everybody wanted a part of that. And her father was such a skeezy fuckface that he just let everybody who wanted a piece of it come in, and as long as he was getting the lion's share, he didn't care.
Right.
So it was really difficult to watch because I grew up, like, she was popular when I was in high school and middle school, and like knowing all of the stuff that she was doing and being such a fan of her music at the time. Like, still to this day, if Baby One More Time comes on the radio, my entire car, everybody in the car starts singing as loud as they can. It's just one of those songs, you know?
Right.
So I felt so bad. And this documentary was made in 2021, which was several years before her autobiography came out. But at the same time, every documentary we watch was made in 2021. It feels like.
Yeah, exactly.
So do you want to tell us things that are going on?
These are some more things that are going on here. Okay, Derek Chauvin was finally arrested for George Floyd's murder. The Mars rover, NASA landed the Mars rover successfully on Mars. The Taliban increased numbers by 30%, but the good news several species were actually removed from the endangered species list.
Like they were no longer
They were no longer endangered.
Excellent.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, so that was good. We did good there, people. Yeah.
Yeah. So this documentary came out a few years before her autobiography came out.
Right.
And it was kind of about her history in the music industry and show business and the conservatorship that she was eventually put under. And it addresses from the beginning. Britney entered show business at 8.
Yeah.
She was a child. She was joined the Mickey Mouse Club, and she was
doing commercials, little things like that.
So she was performing from the time that she was in like 2nd or 3rd grade. And
yes, 2nd or 3rd grade, right.
Yeah, so she was a child. And they have a quote from her in the documentary about how she works hard, but there's so much luck involved in this, and that it is like Olympic levels of work and effort and luck that have to come together to all create this machine that becomes her career.
Right.
And so she was very aware of how much effort she was putting in, how much luck played a part of this, how much other people were kind of driving her career.
Right.
And then they said that from 1998 to 2003, her record sold more than $73 million.
Right, exactly.
And that's just records. That's not sales.
Sales. That's not residuals or merchandise, like you said. It's just the record sales alone. Which with streaming services today is absolutely even more impressive.
Yeah. And then she talked about, they quoted her as saying, the best thing about being famous is that financially I'll be able to take care of my parents for the rest of their life, which is such a haunting thing.
It absolutely is, considering how it all ended up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Certainly. Yes.
And the documentary seemed real focused on the men in her life. They showed when she met Kevin Federline and had a whirlwind Vegas marriage to him. And then when that ended, we got to talk to several of the men who dated her after that, and get their perspective on what they saw her living through in this conservatorship.
Right.
And Kevin Federline, I have negative opinions about that man.
Tell.
So he married this woman, this incredible powerhouse of a woman. He was an employee of hers. He was a backup dancer.
Right.
That's how he met her. And then immediately knocked her up, kept her pregnant for 2 years, and then decided he was done. He wanted to go have a rap career and an affair, and he was leaving. And he used her fear of having the kids taken away from her to abuse her.
Yeah.
And she addresses that in detail in her autobiography. And the documentary just kind of touches on the edges of what a douchebag Kevin Federline was.
Right.
As they're watching this, you're watching her make these really terrible decisions.
Oh, I know. And I think it's because she was groomed to be like that by her father. Kevin Federline was basically her father all over again.
Yeah, pretty much.
Control her 100%. Of course, the only way that a husband can control really is to keep the wife pregnant, which of course the father couldn't do. But so that was his gimmick, but it was still keep control of her, get that money, and spend the money the way and gaslight her in such terrible ways.
Yeah. And then when we saw, I remember watching through the years, she has this breakdown and she shaves her head and she attacks a paparazzi with an umbrella and she's doing these things. And when I look back on it now, I'm like, oh, of course, her father and her husband were basically pimping her out to the world, selling the sexuality of her and forcing her to do things she hated doing. And she was trying as best as she could to resist that.
Right.
The shaving of her head was I am not your beauty to sell.
Exactly. Right. And taking away the thing that I'm known for, my beauty.
Yeah. So when I look back at those actions now, I can understand, looking at it, that was cries for help. That was proof she was being abused. That was her trying to break free of the control other people had of her.
Right.
And when she married Kevin Federline and then had the kids and then they went through the divorce, That's when her dad started pushing for this conservatorship, that he needed to control it, that she clearly was mentally incompetent, that she could not make proper decisions. And he brought her entire personal life in front of a judge.
Oh, yes.
And
Oh my God, how humiliating. Just, using her kids as a weapon against her, that is the lowest of the low.
yeah, and she talks in her book about how she would be rewarded by giving her time with her kids.
Right.
So if she did what they wanted her to do,
Yeah,
they would bring the kids
exactly.
over. And if she didn't, and when I say if she didn't, I mean if she ate a handful of candy
Mhm.
because they allowed her no sugar.
Exactly.
Like, if she did so much as sneak a Reese's Pieces behind her father's back, they took her kids away.
It's, oh my God.
It was terrible. And like you're watching these videos in this documentary of like the paparazzi descending down on her at a gas station and they're yelling at her through the windows and so like she finds a paparazzi who was nice to her.
Right.
And so is Andon Gibran, I think was his name.
Yes. And Andon Gimbran.
And she finds this guy and he's a paparazzi, and so she starts asking for him because he treats her
Right.
well and he's nice to her as he's going out to take these pictures. And so she ends up dating him, and he is very aware that nobody in her life likes him
Right.
because one, he's a paparazzi, two, there's this huge wealth disparity,
Mhm.
and that their relationship was biracial and there was stuff going on with that.
Right.
And so he kind of acknowledges that he went into this in a situation that was doomed. He was
Well,
never
he
gonna.
knew from the beginning that this was not going to work.
Yeah,
Yeah, especially with her parents trying to break them all up,
yeah,
because they kept saying, oh, he's not good enough for America's sweetheart, because like you were just saying about the wealth disparity and the biracial thing. And yeah, so basically, Britney's parents were just like racist, elitist assholes. It just,
yeah. And so he's very concerned, like she's being given Adderall by her parents, and like how is she, how is her health being impacted by this? And that she was constantly afraid that her parents were going to barge in and take everything from her, and that he was very I thought he was very kind in the documentary about, this poor woman who was being abused and there was nothing I could do about it because I had no control and she had no control. And as he is dating her, and then she breaks up with him, and then she starts dating a former manager, Sam Lufty.
mhm.
And this is during the time when this conservatorship is all being put in place.
Right.
And so anybody who has ever met a teenage girl knows that the
Yeah.
second you step in and you start making her life hard, she's dating assholes,
Yeah,
she's
yeah.
riding motorcycles, she's doing
Exactly.
drugs behind the high school.
Right, right,
Like the harder you push, the harder she's going to push back.
right.
And so every time her parents would come in and take away things, she paid for everything. Their entire life, it was all funded by her. And every time they would come in and just rip it all away from her, I think they should count their blessings that she is not murderous.
Oh my God. Yes, absolutely. I can see this ending up on several other YouTube channels that had gone that way. Oh my God.
Yeah, it was so terrible. And she told her former manager, then boyfriend, Sam, that her relationship with her parents was really bad. And he, had thought she was being paranoid. And then he got to see it and became kind of aware of what she was really dealing with.
Mhm.
And then they were forced to break up, or like their relationship ended. And it's just this kind of spiral as she's going through the court systems, and they're accusing her of trying to keep her kids away from Kevin Federline.
Right.
And whether or not she did, he tried just as hard to keep the kids away from her. And so she's going through all of this, and her substitute mom was her family friend, Felicia,
Mhm.
who was a personal assistant, basically hired on to work with Britney, and was the one who traveled with her
Right.
because her mom and dad had two other kids and they had jobs of their own, though her dad was her manager and,
Right.
other things. And so they would be in Louisiana, and she had to go live in New York for a month to record an album or whatever. Felicia was the one who went with her.
Right.
And when they talked to Felicia and they were like, talk to me about Jamie, her dad. And she was like, I will not talk about that.
Yeah. Oh, there's definitely some bad blood there. Absolutely. Well, the thing also was worrying me through the whole thing was, when you have a conservatorship, you have complete power over that person's medical decisions as well. So she keeps ending up in these psych hospitals because she's involuntarily committed by her father, which was basically, okay, now you're really not going to see your kids because now you're in an institution.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
And her parents, she talks in her book about how if she was caught taking B12 supplements, or if she was caught smoking a cigarette or whatever, her dad would automatically check her into rehab.
Yeah.
Specifically because it was a punishment for her, because it kept her from her kids. It made her look that much worse.
Right.
In the
outside. Sure. Yeah.
And so she was forcibly put into mental health facilities as a punishment,
Right.
essentially.
Right.
And because they could afford to do it, none of these places said she doesn't need to be here. They just took the money and ran.
But yet the parents were on the same page as, when we want her to perform, we will give her Adderall.
Yeah.
Like, they literally did that. It reminded me weirdly of Judy Garland and the Wizard of Oz, when they would give her speed during the day and then, these hardcore sedatives at night to knock her out. It was the exact same thing with Britney.
Yeah.
Ah.
And then in the process of all of this, Kevin Federline got full custody of both of their kids.
Mm-hmm.
And this sent her into a huge nervous breakdown. Like, of course it would. I cannot imagine how upsetting it would be to have my kid taken away from me. Like, it's the worst thought a parent can have. And to know that you're fine. And I mean, Britney is a person, she grew up in the industry. She has her issues.
Sure, she's not fine. Nobody's fine, but
she, as far as it goes, she was not an unfit parent. From anything that I have seen, nothing indicates that she should have had her kids taken away from her, except that Kevin got up and was like, so she's being chased by paparazzi and she's doing all these things and she keeps ending up in rehab. That's not good for the kids. Without saying, so much of this is driven by her parents. They're the ones putting her in these facilities. They're the ones calling the paparazzi and sending them to take these publicity pictures.
Sure.
So the judge was getting only like partial.
And considering that Britney's dad had bankruptcies and bad business models in his own life, he couldn't handle his own money. He couldn't manage his own money, let alone rock star level money.
Yeah. And it looks like, based on what I just pulled up on the internet, she paid Kevin Federline $20,000 a month child support.
Oh, wow.
They took away the kids. He was given $20,000 a month child support, more than some people earn in a year.
Yeah.
He was given for per month to raise 2 kids. And when you look at that, eventually that got increased to $40,000 a month when he was given full custody.
Yeah.
And at one point in the documentary, they talk about Britney was given $8,000 a month allowance.
Right.
Out of all of the millions and millions of dollars that she made, she was given $8,000 a month. Her dad was getting $300,000 a year to manage her conservatorship. She was giving $40,000 a month to Kevin Federline to raise the kids. All of the lawyers and everybody lined up and had their hands in her purse.
Of course. Oh, my God.
And then she was given less than $100,000 a year to live on when she earned every bit of it.
Exactly.
It was all her money.
Right.
So, oh my goodness, it's just infuriating. And so then they start talking about the conservatorship in detail. And a conservatorship is basically where a judge appoints someone who's a responsible person to manage your finances, your life, all of that. Sometimes it's a family member, sometimes it's not. And when you are put in a conservatorship, depending on the level of it, you no longer own yourself. The person who is your conservator is you, according to the courts.
Okay.
And so we saw that a number of times that when her boyfriends were talking, they'd be like, I need to bring you home. Your dad's calling saying you have to come home. And technically he is you.
Right.
He will call and say, I am kidnapping you. And you sitting here and saying you are not being kidnapped will change nothing.
God, how embarrassing also.
Yes.
Must be. You know,
Wow.
that's a little more of an extreme than you have to be home by curfew. I mean, that's
Yeah, and at this point, she's in her 20s.
right.
She's yeah, to have your family step in and be like, "I control what you eat. I control where you live. I
Right.
control who you see."
What you
And
wear, what you're like
yeah,
and look like.
it that's terrifying. And the person who is in the conservatorship, the conservatee, cannot make their own decisions involving healthcare. They can't have any input in their treatment plans or pain management or anything. So all of her doctors had to answer to her dad,
Right.
not her.
Right.
And as women, we've been to the doctor and we know
Yeah.
it is already so bad. To go to the doctor, you are flipping a coin, hoping that this is someone who is going to listen to you and treat your pain or your symptoms like they're real.
Right. Or not automatically jump to it's your period or it's your weight
Or it's your anxiety.
it's your anxiety. Right.
And so to know that she was getting essentially no proper medical care because she was going to be ignored as a woman, and then to have them know that nothing they did to her was going to blow back on them because she wasn't technically legally Britney Spears.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh my God. I am surprised she did not go more crazy than she did.
No. Absolutely. I mean, the head shaving, that was a dramatic statement, but it wasn't criminal. I mean, there could have been so much worse things she could have done, you know?
Yeah.
Poor girl.
And then they got into a little bit of how her parents basically used the Bible to cover their bullshit.
As they are wont to do.
Because they went through a bunch of managers because of the conservatorship, and her parents kept firing them. And then one woman showed up, and her deal was that she was loud and vocally Christian.
Right.
And they loved her for that. And they were loud and vocally Christian. But they were loud and vocally Christian in oh, you can't be mad at me. I'm clearly taking care of my daughter because God would want me to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not because they actually had any belief that mattered to them
Right.
in any real way.
Right.
And so that just watching them hide behind the Bible to justify their sins was very uncomfortable. It looks like there was an issue with like TriStar, and Lou Taylor kept trying to insist that there is no conservatorship, and then when you are put in a conservatorship, you get 5 days notice to appeal, at least in California. And Britney did not, because they said that her boyfriend Sam Lefty was considered dangerous.
They kept saying that he was in the mafia, which he wasn't, of course.
Well,
Yeah.
Even if he was, like that,
that's
like I have known some people where you walk away from it and you're like, I think they might be mobbed up a little bit.
yeah.
And none of that has ever come back to blow back on me or anybody else.
Probably not. In fact, he got free pizza at once, I believe, from him. That's a story for another day.
Yes.
Listeners, one day I will get Rachel to tell the story of how the mafia got her free pizza.
But yeah, so Brittany's mom is making up crazy allegations that her boyfriend is crushing up drugs and putting them in her food. And her boyfriend is denying this, obviously. Why would I do that? I would never do that. And nobody can prove it one way or the other, which does not make sense because they own her. They can take her down to a doctor and have blood work done and check to see if there's drugs in her system, and they never did, which tells me that probably they knew they were, blowing smoke.
Of course.
And so, she's texting her ex and is like, please call the lawyer. I can't deal with this anymore. Please set me up with a lawyer. I need to get away from this.
Right.
And like, she's just surrounded by paparazzi as she's doing all this. And like, she's trying to get to the lawyer's office, and there's paparazzi swarming everywhere, including hovering helicopters full of paparazzi taking pictures and videos. But conservatives don't get to choose their own lawyers. They don't have the right to do that.
Right.
So all of
They're
this
person. So there you go.
All of this that she's fighting so hard to do,
she
can't do legally. She has no control over that. She's not allowed to choose her attorney. And so she is basically no longer an autonomous person at this point.
Right.
And so she's going through all of this, and then they mention that an unnamed source approached them in 2020 to expose the truth and sent thousands of pages of reports
Mm-hmm.
from the conservatorship, from doctors, from all of this stuff.
You mean the conservatorship that doesn't exist?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when they're reading through this paperwork, like, they're showing you bits from the pages, not everything, because, personal information,
All redacted, right?
but they're showing, like, that so many doctors are listed here as stating she was not of sound mind, she is incompetent, she has early on stage dementia. And then they brought in a doctor who was a psychiatrist, a geriatric psychiatrist who was brought in, and his name was on the paperwork saying he declared that she had early onset dementia and that she needed to be in a conservatorship. And he was very clear, I will not confirm or deny that I saw any particular person as a patient. HIPAA violations say I cannot do that.
Right.
I will say, you show me a piece of paper with my signature on it,
Right.
and then I will tell you whether or not that is accurate.
Right. Right.
But I kind of got the feeling that he did not, that he may have seen her, but he did not declare her demented like that.
Oh, of course not. No, he definitely evaluated her, but I don't think that was the diagnosis that he came to.
Yeah, I think that was forged or faked or something, and that he could not sit there on a documentary and be like, look, this is what happened, because he's in violation of,
pretty much all the laws ever. Yeah, right.
Yeah, so he would not even verify that he met her. But the feeling that I got was that he was a doctor who spoke with her and took care of her, and that his authority was forged later.
Right.
And so then in, like, 2008, she gets out of the psych hospital and she starts recording a new album. I think this was the Circus tour.
Mm-hmm.
The Circus album.
That was the Circus album.
And it was just vile. Everyone there was involved in the conservatorship. She had no freedom. Her dad had to give her permission for basically to go to the bathroom.
Right, right.
He allowed her to drive her own car for half an hour a day.
Oh boy.
That's the freedom he gave her, the car that she paid for, the car that she bought with the millions that she earned in performing. And at multiple times in this documentary, you hear her say, I am fantastic at what I do. I am the best in my industry. Like, and she knows.
Right.
She is a performer with that cannot be, like, compared with other people. And none of that matters. She's so good. She's making all of this money.
How frustrating must that be for her to know that, first of all, not only is she not demented, she is certainly a lot more intelligent than anybody else in this whole saga, and just be physically, emotionally, and psychologically trapped. Literally. I mean, you're allowed to drive half an hour a day. Dad's in the passenger seat. He's not just giving her keys and saying, be back in 29.5 minutes.
And that car is being tracked.
Of course, it's got a tracker on it, of course. And I'm sure he makes her have Life 360 on her phone and, like, oh, can't even imagine.
Yeah. And so she's dealing with this, and the entire time they're telling the judge, the courts, she is demented. She cannot take care of herself. She is not fit to be an adult.
Right.
She is headlining multi-million-dollar tours, traveling the world, performing for, like, I think she said it was like a 70-day tour where they, or it was like a 9-month tour where they went to 70 cities or something like that.
Right.
It was a huge ordeal and she choreographed every move, wrote every song. She was very hands-on involved with the whole thing. An incompetent person could not have done that.
Absolutely not. I couldn't do that. I mean, it just the amount of mental, physical, and psychological energy that it takes to put a tour together like that and just blow the doors off every venue you're at. No, that's not something that anybody who's impaired can do.
Yeah.
Certainly not.
And so in 2009, she gives her photographer a letter to read aloud on TV, explaining everything about the conservatorship and how abusive it is, in an attempt to bring awareness to her situation. She calls a lawyer saying that her father is threatening to take her kids away if she doesn't stop being difficult. And Her ex-boyfriend Sam and Adnan were, still forcing her to stick with the original crappy lawyer that she keeps trying to fire because he's no good at what he does. And it becomes clear every lawyer that is touching this just wants to drag it out forever.
Yeah.
They want all the billable hours. They know she's got money to pay and that the conservatorship will pay it. And so she's just being abused from every angle. And then she gets rushed into yet another tour. And she writes another album and she's headlining again. She gets a Vegas residency.
Yeah.
And this time, if I'm remembering correctly, is when she had the VMA or MTV appearance where she came out and she was performing, but she looked like she wasn't on top of it. She had put on a little bit of weight and she wasn't catching her cues and it looked terrible. And everybody on the internet just was ripping her apart. How could you come out if you look like that? Why did you not know your dance moves? Why? And when in her book she talks about it, she purposely blew that performance because she was so mad at her father and her mother and the conservatorship, and she was trying to not be the powerhouse that she's supposed to be because she wanted to take away that financial incentive for them to control her.
Wow.
So she purposely blew that performance in hopes that it would blow back on the conservatorship.
Her anger and frustration at these people was so much that she sabotaged her own performance.
Yeah.
And opened herself up to all the Monday morning quarterbacking about, oh, did you see how fat she was? Did you see how, was she on something? I can just imagine what they were saying about that poor girl.
Yeah. She knew it was coming. She knew it would happen, and she did it anyway to punish her dad. The only way she could, the only power she had was over her performances, and that's what she did. And so as she's going through all of this, being forced into these new tours and residencies and stuff, nobody gave a damn what her health was like. Nobody gave her a break between tours. Nobody let her heal and calm down from all of the effort that went into that. They never considered her needs.
Sure.
And her dad gave her stimulants, Adderall, other things on work days.
Right.
And less on her off days. So they were like attempting to medicate her to force her to produce as much as she could because they could make as much money as possible.
Right.
It's just vile. And as a parent, like, my daughter tells me all the time, she's like, thank you so much for supporting the things I want to do and for, because she has all of these things that she wants to do, and anything that she comes to me and is like, I want to try it. I'm like, sure, let's make it happen.
Right.
And so I get wanting to support your kid, and if your kid then launches into superstardom, that's got to be weird.
Oh, I can imagine.
But if at any point she came to me and she was like, I was doing this thing and I don't want to do it anymore, of course, you're done.
Right. And that is so wonderful because, I went to high school with so many people who were obviously either in sports or in a club or in an activity that they couldn't stand, but their mom or their dad, they were like, dad was the wrestling champion, and so now his kids got to go into wrestling whether or not that kid. I felt so sorry for all those kids. Just broke my heart.
Yeah. And just to watch how much he does not care if she is healthy or alive or functional or happy. He did not care at all. As long as she kept making as much money as she could and he could suck as much of it away from her as was possible to do. And so then she's got, her comeback tour, Pieces of Me, in 2013. And it's so funny because she's out on the stage, and the only time she actually had a voice where she could talk to anybody was when she had the mic and was on stage. And so she would come out and talk shit about men, about dating, and she'd be like, I just want to make sure I keep giving you motherfucker something to talk about.
That's right.
And
so, what are they going to do? Cut her mic? I don't think so. Yeah.
And so then she starts canceling tour dates because of family medical issues, and she basically disappears until 2019 when she's involuntarily committed to a psych hospital yet again.
4th time's the charm, apparently. Number 4.
And so lawyers are now denying that she's being held against her will, and now they're taking out restraining orders. And her dad reports that she's refusing to engage in any musical appearances, and he's had to refund money. But he's staying on as her conservator at $500,000 a year. And so, as people are hearing about this conservatorship, and as it begins making news in a real way, the hashtag Free Britney movement becomes enormous.
Right.
And the more people hear about it, the more angry they are at how badly she is being abused as part of this conservatorship.
Now, does a conservator get paid regardless? Like, I know, like, okay, so JV's in charge of all of Britney's decisions. Does he also get a stipend? Like, is that his job?
Yeah.
Where does the stipend come from? Britney's income?
Yeah. So basically, as a conservator, my understanding is that you control that person's finances.
Right.
And if you need to pay yourself because you can't work, your job is taken care of.
I see. Okay, so that's like why the executor of a will gets a little more of a cut of the inheritance than anybody else. They're paying for his or her time to deal with probate court, deal with the lawyers and this.
Basically, my being the boss of you is my job, and I need to be compensated for that. Why he needed to be compensated $500,000.
That's what I was leading up to. Okay, good to know.
And honestly, like, the judges that were part of this really should be looked into. Because if you watched this woman come into your courtroom and just determined that, you know, whatever, she's not competent, she's sitting here, she's having a conversation with me, like, but she's not competent to make her own decisions, and then watch her go on world tours and watch her with the media appearances, what judge would look at that and be like, yeah, this is right?
Yeah, this is a good idea. Let's keep this going on for a while. Oh,
but so as they are finding out about this conservatorship, the public is starting to really push back. There's a lot of backlash against Jamie Spears and his wife or ex-wife, because they divorced at some point. And even her sister, Jamie Lynn Spears, like, there was some blowback against her, but yeah, she did nothing to help her sister. And she was a celebrity in her own right. She was a Disney star, and they've been
terrified of the father too. I mean, you don't know what sort of threats of reprisals he made to her, you know.
Yeah.
For not speaking out.
Eventually, like, after this documentary is made and Britney is writing her book, she talks about how she and her sister are essentially estranged.
Yeah.
Because her sister tended to side with her mom and dad and dealing with kind of all of this stuff. But her sister was a teen mom. Her sister had a baby at like 14 or 15 and was trying to have a celebrity career. Her parents were trying to manage her thing as well. I can see where she would not want to be on the bad side of her parents.
Yeah.
But at the same time, poor Britney's been thrown into essentially prison without walls. And nobody, not even her sister or brother, is stepping in.
Britney also has that thing where, like, if somebody approaches her and says, okay, Britney, I see what's going on here. It's illegal. It's someone, I'm going to help you. If I were Britney, I would not automatically trust that person. It goes back to are they really my friend, or is it because I'm famous?
Yeah.
Well, you know, okay, they're going to help. Yeah.
How much money are you going to make?
Right. How much are you going to touch me for a loan now?
Yeah.
It's awful.
So she's going through all of this, and she makes her first attempt to break the conservatorship, and she's releases a statement that explains that she's forced to do the tour because she's being threatened with, you know, legal action, and her dad's this control freak, and her dad puts her on lithium, saying that, you know, this is necessary for her. Anybody who's ever taken lithium can tell you how hard that drug is on your system.
That is this is where I started typing furiously when I was writing the notes for this, because lithium is not the go-to automatic first drug for depression. First of all, it's a bipolar disorder drug, and it is such an old school drug that it's hardly ever prescribed anymore, because first of all, it's a heavy metal. It's, and also the side effects. You can lose your hair. There's sexual side effects you can break out.
The kidney
The
damage.
kidney damage, right, exactly. You walk into walls half the time. Nobody starts out with lithium. That is something that you are graduated up to. And even then, it's usually only given in a clinical setting, like it's like a residential treatment plan or a hospitalization. It's not a here's your script, go to CVS and go home. So that was terribly mismanaged.
Yeah. And so when you take someone who their body, their looks, that is their income, that is their world, that is the only control that they have over themselves, and you give them lithium
To fuck them up, yeah.
that is to destroy what little control you have over yourself.
Exactly.
And so she's dealing with all of this, and she's made this legal statement, and in June of 2021, the judge denies her petition to have her dad removed from the conservatorship. All the lawyers part of this have made millions.
Yeah.
And finally, in September, her father finally resigns as the head of her conservatorship, and she now has access to her own money.
Yay.
And when she regains control of herself and her money and her decisions, her life got weird. Which, as it would.
As it, yeah, as it would.
It's like a pendulum. If you've been forced all the way over to the side for so long, when you swing back, you're going to go too far the other way before you figure out where to land in the middle. And so that's when she ended up like dancing with knives on TikTok and like the weird stuff that kind of came after that, and the immediate I'm engaged and I'm pregnant. No, now he's gone and I'm not pregnant anymore. I had a miscarriage, like whatever stuff that she was dealing with. That all happened right after the removal of the conservatorship. Yeah.
Oh,
pretty much.
Yeah, that's it. She's going through her adolescence.
And she's probably coming off of a number of drugs.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like,
my God.
Being put on lithium and then having to come back off that and being put on stimulants and alcohol and stuff coming off
that poor girl. Yeah. And it's going to be a while before her body, settles into something and, and whatnot. I just hope she has people who care for her surrounding her now at this point in her life and guiding her.
Yeah. And so the documentary ends at this point where she now has her own money. She's no longer in this conservatorship. Her father has resigned. And that's where the documentary leaves us. Mm-hmm. And for her, like, then she gets to write her book. Right. Then she gets to, go out and do the things and be who she wants to be. And the very first thing she did, according to her memoir, was she took her kids on a vacation.
Oh.
Because she finally got to see her kids.
Yeah.
And not have them yanked away at any moment's notice to punish her for things.
If somebody sees her taking aspirin or something.
Yeah. And she has been very open about the abuse that she suffered at the hands of her parents and her managers and stuff. Like, she tells a heartbreaking story in her memoir about when she was dating Justin Timberlake. She got pregnant, and they forced her to take an abortifacient and to abort a child in the shower of a hotel room.
Oh my God.
Like,
I did not.
She was not allowed to go in to see a doctor. She was basically held by her management team and forced to pass.
Right. To expel a fetus.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And she didn't want to do that. She wanted to keep that baby.
Right.
And when people talk about the importance of pro-choice, Roe v. Wade, having the choice, part of the choice is that you should get to choose to have that kid if you want it.
Exactly.
And that choice was taken away from her.
Yes.
And
which is just as heinous as on the other end of the spectrum. It really is.
So she was abused in ways that I don't think anybody's ever going to really know the full extent to how badly she was treated. Even in her own book, she kind of pulls back. She limits what she says because she doesn't want to get
people are still alive.
Yeah.
I'd be interested in seeing what she comes out with when she's 60 or 70,
Yes. But I'm so happy for her that she is now done with that and making her own decisions. And if she's making bad decisions, at least they're her bad decisions.
Yes. We love you, Britney, because I know you're listening.
Well,
we love you and we want you to have your best life.
Well, and when you think about how this impacts everybody that's not Britney Spears level famous, right now there has been a real push from companies to start taking over and developing conservatorships for senior citizens
Mhm.
in a we're going to soak up all of your valuables, we're going to own your property, we're going to own your money, we're going to own all of your retirement funds,
Mhm.
and we're going to shove you in this nursing home to die.
Yeah.
And we're seeing a lot more of that.
Which is why people need to understand the difference between a conservatorship and having a medical proxy, for
Yeah.
example, and or a financial not what's the word? What's the word? When you apply it's the
Like a financial power of attorney.
power of attorney, that's the hard word I can think of. Thank you. Yes, those are different things than conservatorship. So sit down with your lawyer and your CPA or whatever and talk about what literally that means for your mom or your dad.
Yes. And when you're thinking about what a parent needs or what a child needs, and you're thinking, I need to have control over some things because this person does not have the capacity to do this thing. Try to be limited in the scope of that. Like, okay, if you can't control your own medical stuff, that's fine. I can go in and I can work with your doctor to make sure you have the proper medications. But that should not mean that I then have control over all your money
Right.
or that I own all of your property. Or
Yeah.
like, so be thoughtful about that and just be wary that this is coming for everybody.
Yeah.
Like any one of us could be dragged in front of a court and have somebody air out our dirty laundry and tell them that we are then not competent
Yeah.
and that they should own our things.
Yeah.
And so it's really very important to understand what a conservatorship is and to be thoughtful of how that can impact you and really look into if you're considering putting a parent or somebody into a nursing home situation, watch so carefully
Right.
to make sure that that does not turn into something bad.
Bring a lawyer with you to
Yes.
that meeting, that first meeting with the people at the nursing facility. Make sure you know exactly what they are and are not allowed to make decisions about with your loved one. Definitely always bring a lawyer.
Yep. That's honestly the best advice we can give you. Bring a lawyer and make sure you have insurance. Those are the things we
Yes.
But thanks for listening to Real Stories, Real Problems with your hosts, Rachel and Roxanne. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into conservatorships and the documentary Britney versus Spears. Join us again next week for a glimpse into another financial problem and a documentary all about it. If you enjoyed our show today, please remember to like, subscribe, and leave us a review on your podcast app. Thanks for listening. See you again next week.
Bye for now.